Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
As the Virtual Grip Network gears up for another action-packed week of racing, let's take a quick look back at last week's race winners. On Saturday, Aiden Young went from last to first, taking the checkered flag in the Bootleg Racing League's Outlaw SK Modified Series at the Bull Ring at Las Vegas. Later that night, Chris Davis held on to claim his first win of the season in the Bootleg Racing League's Late Model Series, also from the Bull Ring. On Sunday, Dwayne MacArthur was the driver to beat and claimed his second win in a row when the OBRL's Cup Series went to Kansas Speedway. And on Monday, Michael Milfeld found victory lane in a shootout to the line in the Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series from Chicagoland Speedway. Now we'll take a quick break before turning things over to John Hine, who's standing by with this week's special guest, James Lehman.
Welcome back. My name is John Hine. I am your host, and this week I have James Lehman, the owner of the MVRL. And James's first race in the MVRL came back in June 29th, 2023. It was at the Trucks at Vegas. Overall, in the MVRL, he has had 58 starts, 8 poles, 4 wins, 19 top fives. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I'm going to dive right in here, your season, because, man, you're kind of having a pretty good season, having a good go at it here. ARCA, you're sitting second in the points, and you've got a couple of wins. So let's start with ARCA first and talk about your season to date. How would you sum it up? What would you grade yourself?
I would, if I had to put myself on a grade scale, I think I'd give myself an A-, for sure. There's been some races where it's definitely, I feel like I could have done better. Hey, what's up? All right, go ask Mama. Go ask Mama. Thank you.
Ask her what her grade for her dad is.
Oh, she would give you a big old F, that's for sure. She thinks I could definitely do better. Yeah, I would give myself an A- throughout the season for sure. Just there's a couple mistakes I think, just driver error. I definitely could have done better, and definitely probably could have had one more win other than the two that I have. Because one of the biggest flaws I think I have is I pushed the car too early, too soon, and I burned my stuff up. So I'm slowly getting better with that.
That's the fun part about that ARCA car that I actually kind of like that tire wear in that car. It really presents some challenges. The only car that I've driven on the oval side of things that are like that are the late model stock. And you've got an interesting array of tracks too that kind of you can't run them all the same. You can't count the same thing out of your tires at each one of those tracks. Um, how did you set that schedule, by the way? I mean, that really is an interesting schedule.
Honestly, I looked at what the ARCA series actually does, and then I compared it to what iRacing had planned for their first season of ARCA with the new ARCA cars, and then I just kind of picked and choose what I thought would be good, and then just put some tracks in there I definitely thought would be good tracks for the first time for these cars to be on. And yeah, now the lap counts, I just kind of winged it there. I didn't actually set a certain mile amount I wanted to meet. Next season will be a lot better with miles, and it'll be a little bit more consistent. But yeah, definitely it's
Actually, I
turning
think
out to
the
be an
lap.
issue.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with the laps. Those races have been probably the right distance for that car. But keep your driver hat on. We'll get to your league owner hat here in a minute. But we'll flip over to the trucks on Thursday, which is also MVRL. You've got a win there, and you're fourth in the points. So grade yourself in the trucks.
Um, if I grade myself in the trucks, I definitely give myself a B. Though that the first part of the season definitely wasn't up to par on what I would think I'd put myself at. Um, it's definitely more challenging in the truck series, in my opinion. There's a lot more fast guys that can make it on Thursday nights. Hence why I'm only fourth in the points and I only have one win. Dakota Floyd, he puts on a hell of a fight, and so does Justin Michael, and then also Scott Patton. There's a couple guys in there that don't have wins yet, and they need them. Because they're always in the top 10. Because it's like if you make one slight mistake, you can easily finish outside the top 10 in the Thursday night series for sure.
Well, sitting where you're at in points on both of those. So, I mean, both the seasons, we're getting to the second half of the seasons for those. And, does your strategy on track change any? I mean, do you go, I hate to use the word points racing, but I mean, it's a thing. Or do you still trophy hunt? Hey, gonna, I'm gonna do what I do and let the chips fall where they may kind of thing.
It all depends on the track we're going to. There's certain tracks, yes. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna ride around, try to get points, and then just try to finish the race. Like especially the super speedway races. Typically we do pretty good with our super speedway races on Thursday night. Um, so typically I try to get as much get those stage points, and then also try to win the race at the end, get the maximum points out of the day. But then there's those races where it's like, I'm just gonna ride it out, and just make sure I can finish.
Well, in those super speedway races, there are so much out of your control on those tracks. So those are always a crapshoot. Do you prefer the mile and a halfs, or do you like the little bull rings? The half mile, or smaller?
I'm a short track guy. I've always loved short tracks. Me, Heath, and Aiden, we go back years of racing short tracks. Back when I was a teenager, when I started iRacing, man, just
Oh,
enjoying. I loved racing short tracks. I think I ran way too many races with the street stock in USA. So but definitely, I'm definitely a short track guy. Super speedways, I mean, I got that down, and then intermediates, I love them. But I think something that's starting to grow on me a lot is road racing. I love road racing now.
I didn't realize you and Aiden went back that far. That's kind of cool. Aiden's a teammate of mine. So, um, or is that you talking Aiden Young, or is there another Aiden in there? I guess I should say.
No, no, it's Aiden Young. Yeah, me and him,
Okay.
we raced when I was a kid, and he was a kid. And,
Well, you
when we
both are
first
kids. You both are
started
still
iRacing.
kids.
Yeah, I'm a
Put that
kid,
on the
and I got
record.
three kids on the way. So I mean, yeah, it works. But yeah, when we back in the late teens of 2018, 2016, around that time, that's when me and him really ran into each other running street stocks and late models and stuff. So
Nice.
he's a good guy, a good racer.
Yeah. Yeah, he is a good kid. Good kid. So, um, but well, you talk about where your strengths and all that are. Then, so when you go to a short track and that bar raises a little bit, I mean, do you practice the ones that maybe you're not looking for? I don't want to say not looking forward to, but maybe not one of your strong suits. Do you put more practice on, like this week, we're going to Chicagoland. What is that? Like almost a mile and a half, like a 0.3 or whatever, 1.3 or whatever it is, 1.4. Do you put more effort getting ready for that race, or do you kind of equal?
Um, no, to be honest, I mean, I have my tracks where I don't typically practice until it's the night of, just because I've been on the service for 11 years, so I kind of
Yeah.
mirror a lot of tracks already. They're locked in my head on how I should drive them, where I should drive them, for sure. And then there's when the new tracks come on a service, yes, those are the ones that you typically spend a little bit more time because you don't want to, like Kern, for instance. That was my only second time ever running Kern. The first time it was with a cup car. You know what I mean? So
A
I
cup
definitely,
car?
yeah,
I bet
I
you
run a.
that would have been probably interesting.
It definitely is. I in my Saturday night league, Saturday night racing league, they took the cup car there for 300 laps with the at Kern, and it definitely was it's interesting. Let's just say the least with the cup car. You thought the ARCA car just broke loose. That car is a whole other animal when it just breaks loose.
Well, it is, but the thing is that track, the way it lays out, it entices you to overdrive the corners, and that was a track. If you overdrove the corners, nothing good came of it because you'd have to put a whole lot of wheel to turn the car. So when it finally did turn, it break loose on corner exit. If you try to use your brake to turn the corner, you wheel hopped it and then went around on corner entry. I saw a lot of that last Monday. It just guys weren't figuring out how to adjust at all, but um, you know do you have a preference between the two, between the ARC or the truck?
That's a hell of a toss up right now. Since the ARCA car is so new, um, the truck is by far my favorite oval car. It's a toss up between that and late model stock. But I don't know. I'm starting to lean towards the ARCA car a little bit more, just because I don't know. It gives me the real Gen 6 feeling. Like when Gen 6 car, that was probably one of my all time favorite cup cars to drive. And yeah, I am starting to lean more towards it. I'm hoping iRacing does something crazy and makes an open setup series for it or something. I think that would be interesting. But yeah, I think I'm starting to lean more towards the ARCA car for sure.
So, is there a track? I mean, you talked about starting to like the road course and stuff like that. I know ARCA, if you look at their schedule, I mean, they've got dirt, they've got the super speedways, they've got the many smaller tracks. I don't remember if they go to, I know they used to go to a road course, but I don't know that they go to road courses anymore. What are you looking for the next season? Is the schedule gonna have that same feel to it, or are you gonna actually throw the more into it?
Um, well, funny part is I actually finished the schedule yesterday for next
Oh,
season. Yeah,
breaking news! Breaking news!
breaking
Bre-
news. The next season's supposed to start on July 21st.
All right.
And it's gonna go from every week. I still gotta finalize it because I forgot to skip Labor Day. My fault. But it's gonna go Daytona, Iowa, Watkins Glen,
Road course.
Kansas, yep, Kern, New Hampshire, Nashville Fairgrounds, Pocono, Chicagoland, Richmond, Las Vegas, dirt track at Charlotte, Martinsville,
Wow.
Dover, Darlington, Talladega, Nashville Superspeedway, the Milwaukee Speedway, Phoenix with the open dogleg, and Homestead, Miami.
Nice. That's the ARCA that I know. You have
Mm-hmm.
everything under the sun. That
It,
is awesome to hear.
it,
Um, wow. Well, since we've got to cut you now on your league owner's hat here, um, what is something that you could tell people that one of the challenges of running a league that people may not know? I mean, what is what's behind the scenes that really might take up a lot of your time or a lot of your efforts? What is it?
I would say probably the most challenging part of owning the league is running it like a business. If you've never ran a business before, um, I honestly, when I took Max V over from Kerry Cleaver back in 22, I didn't realize how much like time and effort you actually had to put into it. I thought maybe you could just set up a couple races, cool, but then broadcast started to get fair, and then fees and all this stuff, and you're just okay. It's starting to get a little bit more challenging and a little bit more time consuming than you would thought for sure. But that's definitely probably one of the biggest things is just the time that you got to put into it, running it like a business, and you got to understand. And one of the biggest things I'm still dealing with today is that you're not going to make everybody happy. There's
Yep.
going to be people that despise every move you make in the league, no matter what. I'm like, all right, cool. There's the door. Go find another league. But
Yep.
I definitely, I've been told by many people, and I've been told by many people that run iRacing. They say you have one of the best running leagues by far in a while. Like Sean Ambrose, he told me many times. He says, "Bro, your league's doing a lot better than a lot of other people's leagues. It's a little bit more maintained, a little bit more professional." And I'm like, "There's still areas I think that could be improved for sure, but I appreciate it."
Yeah, you just described the very reason why I've never ran a league. I just, the time that I think to do it right, there's a lot of time involved. I'm really good friends with a couple of guys that run leagues, and oh my gosh, the stuff that I've seen them deal with, it's just like eye-opening. But that the thing about iRacing that's nice, I guess. I mean, there's 10,000 leagues to go join, and you can
Yeah.
run, and there's 500 of each car and class and everything else. So I mean, if you don't like one league or like how it's being run, hey, you know what? Nothing, nothing's lost. Go find another league. I've never understood why guys get bent out of shape. I mean, I've joined leagues and then I've raced them a few weeks, and it's just like, whoa, this is not for me, and I'll have to do something else. It's okay. Um, but what would you think? That's so interesting. You talk about the running it like a business. What was the biggest surprise to you then when you took it over? Was it the all of a sudden the different clerical things, or was it the managing the driver roster? I mean, what was the most eye-opening thing for you?
I would say it's probably managing the drivers. I mean, it's more babysitting in my opinion. I feel like, um,
I've heard that. I've heard that.
like I didn't like. Don't get me wrong. My league is you got people that are 14, 15 years old to people that are 70 years old racing in my league.
Yeah.
Like it's a wide spectrum, and I know there's leagues out there that separate it for a reason. They keep it where it's young bucks, and they keep it where it's the old dogs. You know what I mean? Like they keep it
Yeah.
that way for certain reasons, but I try to give everybody the respect and just treat them like an adult, no matter their age, and until they give me a reason not to. You know what I mean? And that does suck. What's happening to my league, and that's my own fault because I let too many people in. Is people are starting to have to treat them like children, and discipline them and stuff. But
Well,
I'm hoping it grows out.
you have a lot of new blood in your league,
Yeah.
and that one of the things that I've always said that's great about league racing is you start to race guys over and over again. And then you start to get to know their tendencies, and you learn how to race around certain people. Some people you have to give that extra room to. Some people you can get door handle to door handle, no problem. You guys can, you can race that guy 50 laps like that. And you might touch once, twice, even if you do, it's a complete accident. Um, all that new blood, you've got guys that don't know how to race each other. And that that I would think is a pretty big challenge because everybody, as a driver, and I'm sure everybody as a driver thinks it's the other guy's fault, and you know, we're not smarter than that, I guess, maybe. But y- do you have any thoughts on you said you let too many people in. Are you looking at changes for next year? Limiting fields? Are you looking at um, anything else to manage that a little differently?
That's definitely something me and the admins have been discussing for sure. Some of us want to limit it to where hey, you got to have a certain I rating to get in. Like because there's some people in my league that are below 1500, and you start with 1500 when you join iRacing.
Yeah.
But then there's people in there that have less than 1500 and they run faster than us. And I'm like, okay, like is it really a good tool, And then
Yeah.
some of us want to do it off of incidents. And we're like, well, maybe they just had bad 10 races on official and they just never ran official again. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah. Well, and some guys just run only league. I was in a league one that were they put the I rating caps in there, and I was always, you know, didn't think that was the best way. I mean, an example is I've got like a 1700 I rating on dirt, and quite frankly, I'm a whole lot better than that 15 or 16. But I've ran 30 dirt races, maybe 35 dirt races, and since they've gotten it, and 25 of them were when it first launched. So, um, you get guys that don't do it. I mean, but to your point though, you're never going to make anybody happy. As a league owner, make it your league. I mean, you know what? You're the one putting the effort, and you're the one putting the all the time in behind the scenes. Make it how you want it. If guys want to be a part of it, cool. Let them be a part of it. If they don't, then hey, see ya. Go find another one. So I think you have a good attitude about that, and that's really it's really refreshing to hear that. And I know there's some growing pains on Monday. I watched your truck race on Thursday, and 2 cautions there at Nashville, and then we had what we had on Monday at Kern, and it's just I mean it was like watching 2 different leagues. And but that would just drive me nuts. Yeah. Can I ask you this? How do you deal with that? Because you've got one that really looks really good and one that needs a little nudging, some guardrails, whatever the case might be.
I definitely have to say, what happened last Thursday was what Max Fee has always been. We've had if you go back and you watch our past broadcasts on Turn 200 from the 2023 season and 2024 season, that was all year. It was like 1, 2 cautions, or it was just the one caution at the stage break and it went green, for the whole race. And it definitely when we had that happen at Nashville, that gave me a little bit of warm and fuzzy. I was like, okay, cool, maybe we're getting into the right direction. We're cleaning up the act again because the
It was a
Charlotte
great
race.
race. It
The
was a
Charlotte
great race.
race, the Charlotte race really threw me off. We had 12 cautions there at Charlotte. And I was like, why? Like out of all the tracks in the world, we had 12 at Charlotte, and it honestly it was just driver's error. People over
Yeah.
driving it, making mistakes too much, and I'm like, cool, like this is where that new penalty system is going to be into play, and people will be like, hey, cool, you need to clean up your act, or they're gonna get out of my league because I don't want to deal with it no more. And
I always thought Charlotte was one of those underestimated tough tracks to get around, because to get around there fast, you've got to put that car right on the edge at all
oh
time.
yeah,
I mean it's right on the edge to go fast there. And I don't know that there's any other track where you run that close to the edge lap after lap after lap.
I
I'm
put
sure there's
Kansas
a
on that
couple.
list. I put
Yeah,
Kansas
and
on.
maybe Vegas,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's not a whole lot of them that were. I mean, you literally are on the edge. Um, Texas, you can get there,
Mhm.
but you can still go fast and still be a little conservative getting around a place like that. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I was kind of curious from a league owner what your thoughts, because like I said, you got this great league on Thursday, and Monday's gonna get there. I think I've heard your talks before. I see some of the things that you've posted in Discord, so you're gonna get there. Um, but that has to. That's my question. That's just got to drive you nuts, though, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a yeah. When you go from Monday night looks like an official race, and your Thursday night looks like a genuine, really good league race. You're like, okay, all right. How are we gonna try to meet these two in the middle somehow? But I definitely think with next week's race, I think for Monday, I think it's gonna go a lot well for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna be at Chicagoland, and that's man, I wish more people use that track. That is, I know
It's
when this airs, it'll be Tuesday, but man,
mhm.
I love Chicago. I wish more people used it.
Oh man, it's like that is by far. If you ask Heath Smith, that's his favorite like intermediate track for sure. Because our very first what do you call it, recruitment race for our Thursday night series, he won every single one of them. We always do Chicagoland just for him. He's a strong guy at Chicagoland. So
There you go. We're
definitely.
calling it. We're calling a shot
Hmm.
right off the bat here.
Oh
So,
yeah, he's the guy to beat usually.
well, you talk about some of the other things that you like in you guys, the success you've had on Thursdays, and like I said, I think you're going to get there on Mondays. I know it's not where you want it to be, but it will. If you did it on Thursday, you can do it on Monday. Um, you talked about really liking the short tracks. Are there any plans maybe at some point to doing a short track uh night? Where you're just running like the late model stock and taking it to places like like Lanier and some of those other like the Bull Ring at Vegas.
If I let Heath make schedules, it'd be Lanier and New Sonoma night for 20 races. All right, I'm just saying. Heath would do it. He wants to do it so bad, but I told him, it's time consuming. Like, running a league, that's a whole
Yes.
nother series you got to make, a whole nother set of rules you got to make. Because you can't run the same rules that you run on Monday and Thursday for that series. You can't. You got to set it a little different, just a little bit, not crazy, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and almost have to
it's
make that an invitational because that
mm,
close quarters racing, uh, that's not the place to learn, should I say,
no.
with a new group of guys. But well, very cool, man. I like everything that you're doing with your leagues. Not that my opinion matters, but you know what? As someone who races in your league, just know that hey, you've got some folks there that are rooting for you. Um, let me kind of move to you wouldn't do this if you didn't love racing. I mean, that's one thing that binds all of us in here, no matter what our skill levels are, no matter, we all love to race. So you grew up around racing. Tell me a little bit how you were first exposed and where you caught the bug.
I think I caught the bug within the first couple months of being out of the womb. My dad took me to Myrtle Beach Speedway. I think it was October, and I was born in September, so quite literally wasn't too late. And yeah, my dad tells me all the time he remembers when I was standing in front of the TV, with the big accident with Dale Earnhardt Sr. He tells me all those memories, but I've always had it in me where I just loved racing. I raced a couple clone go karts with a couple of my buddies just on the side, had some fun, and raced a couple of sanctioned races down at a Triple T's Raceway in South Carolina, and then finally me and my dad built a limited late model and raced it. We only raced it at Dillon twice, but we did get to run some practice laps at Myrtle Beach before they tore it down. Thank God. So,
Wow, what did you think of the late model?
I liked it, to be honest. I think it really. I didn't get into the late model until what was it, 2017, 2018. And I've been on iRacing probably 6 years, no, 5 years by that time. I was excited at the same time of the car, but it was funny when they came to the car, like, what'd you think? I flat out looked at him. I was like, car drives like, like my cursing, but I was like, hey, like it drives like it's a boat, and they were like, okay, well, you
You
know
have
what
a
you're
whole
talking
lot of
about.
weight. You have a whole lot of weight compared to that little cart that you're running around there,
Mm-hmm.
and your butt is not that far off the ground. I mean, it's a little bit
No.
higher, but it's
Mm-hmm.
you still got a low center of gravity in late models, so you sit pretty low in those cars.
Mm-hmm.
Dillon Speedway. I can't. A lot of people might be shocked for me to say this, but that's not a track I'm all that familiar with. Where's Dillon located?
So Dillon Motor Speedway is located in South Carolina. It's located in Dillon, South Carolina. It's a small track. It's ran by Ron Barfield. He's owned the track his entire life. Um,
I've heard of the track. I've heard of Barfield. I mean, it's a very legendary track. I just,
mhm.
you
It's
know,
just it's one of those tracks that never really got sanctioned by NASCAR, but has like the Cars Tour goes there. They go there once every 2-3 years kind of deal. You know, just like how they change it off with the Florence. They kind of go back and forth every other year. They change just what their deal is. But yeah, it's just a small track in the middle of nowhere, ran by Barfield, and it's just fun. It's a challenging 1/8 mile for sure. So
oh,
it's
it's
a
that
very
small.
it is tight. It is very
Oh,
tight.
that was gonna be one of my questions. Is a 3/8 is a half mile, but holy cow, that is a tiny track.
Yeah, it might be a little bit past 8, right? Maybe a quarter. I might be misjudging, but it's still a
Well,
tight
even
one.
quarter of a mile is those are not big tracks.
No, it's definitely a challenge for sure.
What other that you've got several. I mean, Florence isn't that far away. I mean, I know like Travelers Rest and places like that are, but those are dirt. I know those tracks. Is there any other tracks like in that area that you got to go to, even as a fan, just growing up, like you like to go drive them and watch them?
Um, for a dirt track that was nearby, I got to go to Lakeview all the time growing up. Another asphalt track was Florence Motor Speedway. When he lost, when Myrtle Beach, shut down, he bought Florence Motor Speedway and he rebuilt it. And I think he's done a great job with that, especially getting it NASCAR sanctioned and all that, and getting the extra funds to fix it up even more. Um, and yeah, and other than that, any big NASCAR tracks, I went to Richmond and Darlington. Those are only two.
What'd you think of Darlington when you go there? I've been to Darlington, and the first time I remember my first time going there when I saw where they actually race at, it's like holy crap. What was your
Um,
first opinions when you went there?
my first opinions as a teenager, it was great. Loved it. Got to sit in turns one, about halfway up the stands. It's definitely, if you've never been to a NASCAR track, I say go to Darlington. It is solely different. It's crazy. You being that halfway up the stands, you'll still get hit in the face with rubber. It's kind of funny. So it's there's nothing like going to one of those races. Now as a somebody over 21, a lot more fun. A lot more fun
Well,
for sure.
most places are a lot more fun after you're 21. I mean, let's be
Yeah.
fair about that.
Well, that one, if I wouldn't say it's like Talladega, how their party scene is, but if you want to see the most redneck hicked people in your world, that's probably the one track to go. It's got Southern 500 for a reason.
Yeah, and there's nowhere like Talladega. That's
No, that's for
you
sure.
know,
Nothing
I
compares to
I
that.
went there and I'll say I wasn't the most innocent person walking there, but I'm telling you, when I got there, I felt like I lost my innocence all over again.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, saw things that even made me blush. So, but, um, so Darlington's then your favorite track to go and watch a race at?
Oh yeah, for sure. Darlington's like it's if anytime I can make it, I try to plan it. Like it's by far the favorite.
You know, what would be your ideal track? Let's just say you were going to run a weekly series then, with the iRacing tracks. Where would the track go to that you, not some of your admins, but you would want to go and race at every week in iRacing?
Mm. That would be a toss up between Richmond Raceway or Myrtle Beach, to be honest. It would be a toss up. Richmond, it's fun in every car, in my opinion. Um, but Myrtle Beach, it's fun in every car, but you got to drive every car different.
Yeah,
Whereas Richmond, it's just like you drive each car the same way. Myrtle Beach, you have to drive it every car different, and I definitely think Myrtle Beach is a little bit more challenging for sure. Especially glad
those
the way they
turtles.
got it. Yeah, man.
And no matter what car you're in, you hit those turtles, you better have a hold of that steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
well, you talked a little bit about road racing. We talked about your truck series, the ARCA car. So, the cool thing about iRacing, you got billion different things you can drive basically. When you're not doing MVRL stuff, is there anything else in the service that rather be off road? Is there like a certain car that you just can't get enough of? Anything like that?
The Mazda, hands down.
Mazda.
I love the Mazda. I definitely think if you had to pick a car, sorry, my wife's yelling at the kids. Um, she, yeah, that caught me off guard. Yeah, the Mazda, it definitely is one of those cars that I just love driving because it's a slow car, but you got to make it go fast. If that makes sense. It's more of anybody can go fast in it, mind you, but to be able to go fast and be a good driver at the same time is two different things. It definitely teaches you how to drive a little bit better.
Yeah, those cars are plus the right ones. I like driving around the convertible. So
Right.
that's kind of cool. I'm in VR, so I actually get that full effect
Hmm.
when it's like that. So, speaking of VR, now, what do you use then for your racing setup? Are you triples? Are you single VR?
Um, I'm triples now. I did run VR for quite some time until this happened. um, I can't. I realized literally I got told by doctors running VR caused this. Literally,
Oh,
I can't. They said being that close kind of screwed up my eyesight, which I can see why, because if you look back at the years that I was running iRacing, I ran a lot, so it definitely made sense a little bit. But now I run triples, and I'm not gonna lie, it's different in VR. It took me a minute to get used to, but once I got used to it, it's I could do either one, but I can't run a single screen. That's no. Once you go triples or run VR, you can't go back. You just can't.
no, I've tried to go back just to see what it was like, and then you got an old practice, and man, I couldn't even make a lap. I
Hmm.
mean, it was really an eye opener. But um, what kind of wheel and all you direct drive? What kind?
Run a Moza. That's my brand.
Nice.
That's what I run. Out of everybody I picked them. Um, definitely, definitely my favorite for by far. I do want to get Ace Deck. Ace Deck's like top dog stuff I want to get when I rebuild this after my deployment next year. That's the plan. That's the plan. Let's go full Ace Tech.
You got a motion rig or?
No, no.
No,
You know
just
what?
gonna get
I
the
think
equipment.
I think I can. I don't know if you can see it, but it's wood. I bu-
Gotcha.
I, bu- I built my whole rig out of wood. Everything, the triple monitor stands out of wood. The whole sheet and everything, rig part is out of wood. I built it all myself.
Well, that's awesome, man. A couple of builders. I think Jerry Isaacs was in here last week. He liked building stuff. Built himself a hot rod actually, and all that kind of good stuff. So, um, man, that's one of the reasons why I like doing these interviews. I always find cool things about. So I take it. Do you like? If you can do that, I'm going to guess you've built other things too. Then, right? Or is this your
Yeah.
first project? Do you
So,
like to do that stuff, or is that
oh
I mean
yeah,
like a hobby?
yeah. I mean, I don't do it often. It's probably as much as I should. When I built the sim rig, this was my first time actually like doing it by myself. If that makes sense. I didn't have somebody over looking my shoulder, so it
Yeah.
definitely was a confidence boost. Um, I've been pushing off building my wife a what's it called? Not a desk. It's something to hold all her makeups and jewelry. Vanity. I think it's called a vanity.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She wants me to build one, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to test my skills that far. Let me build you a table first. See if I get that right. So,
Next thing you know, you'll be building a gazebo in the backyard. Um,
just give it time, right?
that's right. Um, well, it is really cool to kind of hear about that background about growing up and all that stuff. That's one of the neat thing about motorsports. From generation to generation, it's definitely a family thing, and sharing those memories with your dad. Between the shifting the carts and the late model, what was your favorite memory you had like behind the wheel?
um, definitely being behind the car, behind the wheel of the car.
Just
Like
all together.
all the my favorite memory, honestly, was like just running laps at Myrtle Beach. That was my home track. Growing up, going there almost every Saturday. Like, the goal was to at least run one race there, but economy hit. Nobody could get into it. Nobody could buy the track, rezone, and blah blah blah. The whole story. But
Yeah,
yeah, it just definitely running laps there. I think that's the best memory for me and my dad. Despite us running a race at Dillon, I think that was probably that was
very cool.
definitely the most meaning memory to us for sure, and myself.
That is pretty cool. One of the things too about you is you talked about deployment, and so you're a service member, and first of all, I thank you for your service.
Thank
Um,
you.
what are you? What branch are you in, and then what do you do?
I'm in the United States Army. I am a staff sergeant, and I'm in 80 November, which is a transportation management supervisor.
So, what does that entail? Is that okay? We're going to send these over to here. Is it a logistics thing, or is it managing the what's on the base? What is that?
Um, it's actually kind of all of it, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
It's a little bit of everything. It just depends on what's the best word to put it, what part of the base or what part of the unit you work with. Best way to put
Mhm.
it. Like the section I work in, I manage I manage all the equipment in the unit, and whenever it gets time for deployments, I deploy it. Solely my job to schedule all types, anything you can think of, ports, flights, train, line haul. I do it all. That's literally my
Is
job.
it motorized vehicle, or I mean, do you
Anything.
work aircraft, all whole
I,
9 yards?
it
Wow.
can so like the unit I'm in, without giving too much classified information out.
Yeah, don't do that. I don't
It's
need the
just it's
the.
wheeled equipment. That's about it.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
like we do anything you can think of in the military. We do it. We don't just do it for the army. Depending on what unit you are, you can do it for other branches. You can do it because Navy and the Marines don't have their own transportation specialists, so we do their units. And they go on deployments, which is
Oh, very cool.
difficult.
Have you been stay? Are you're obviously you're in South Carolina right now? Have you got to like be stationed for small periods of time anywhere else in the world?
Well, currently I'm in New York. I
Oh,
don't.
okay. Sorry. I mean, you're from South Carolina.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm from there. I
Sorry.
haven't lived there in 9 years. But station. You mean like deployments and rotations, or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, did you like 6 months maybe like in Korea or Germany or something like that?
So I haven't seen nothing in the Middle East yet. That's the whole point why I joined is there. It's the way I do it in a couple years. But I've done 3 Europe rotations for Atlantic Resolve. I've seen almost every country in Europe. So my
Wow.
passport has got a bunch of stamps. Um, but yeah, I've done 3 in Europe alone. I'd put it all together, I think a total of 28, 29 months out of my 9 years are overseas. So,
Where was your where was your favorite country in deployment?
mm, I don't hope my wife doesn't watch this. Romania, to be honest, Romania.
Wow, really?
I would. So when I went to Romania, I was 21, single, and
Okay. Yeah.
freshly broken up. So I was a broke heart man, and I was having the time of my life. Um, Now scenic wise, nothing beats Switzerland, man. Nothing.
No,
Switzerland,
no, I can see that.
like it's so beautiful there.
Who had the
I went
best food? How about that? Who had the best food? Because
Greece,
for me, great,
Greece,
really?
Greece.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Okay.
when I went and ran port in Athens. Yeah,
Hmm.
that was yeah, food wise, amazing. You have all the best of the worlds all in one place.
Who had the
It's
best
amazing.
beer?
Germany.
Germany. There you go. Nice. Not a surprise there.
No.
Switzerland and then Germany. That's that. Those were the no-brainers. But what was your favorite Greek dish?
Oof. It's been a couple years since I've been there. I can't remember. I don't know off the top of my head.
Do you remember what it might have contained? What protein was in it? Was it fish? Was it
Um.
because you get some of those countries with their idea of
Yeah.
what they do to the fish are a whole
Uh-huh.
lot different what we do.
To the dish that I love the most, I don't remember the name of it, but it had like a mixture of chicken and duck in it.
Mm,
But I can't think of the name. It was chicken and duck, and it was like
okay.
just sautéed in like this teriyaki sauce, and I just loved it.
Oh,
I could
wow.
eat it twice a week.
That
It's really good.
that sounds really good, actually. Um, well, like I said, thank you so much for your service and everything else. And so, how long are you planning on staying? Are you going to be a career guy in it? Or are you looking to be out in 5 years, 2 years? What's your plans?
The plan is to do 20. It always is the plan.
Hmm.
I think my body's gonna give up first. Sadly, the sad part about being in the military is it's hard on the body despite what you do to take care of it. Like I'm in a great shape for a 27-year-old, better than most people in my life, but it's
That
hard.
grind.
It's hard. It grinds. Like, I got slip disc in my neck. I got bulging disc in my back. I got
Oh, wow.
messed up hips, messed up knees, and I'm 27 years old, and it's definitely taking its toll. I got to make a decision in this next year or half if I'm going to go in depth or not. And my wife doesn't want me to, of course, but she understands why if I want to stay in.
Yeah. No, like I said, thank you for your service. It's a great sacrifice that you make, being, moved around and all these other things that I'm sure, most people think about, keeping us out of conflict or winning conflicts, but there's a whole thing behind the scenes that there's great sacrifice that comes in that. And so,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's outstanding. And then again, behalf of everybody watching, thank you. Um, you talked about family. We saw a guest appearance by one of your little ones. Tell me a little bit about your family. How many of those little ones you got running around, and your wife, and all that.
um, so my wife's name is Jordan. We've
Okay.
she is my second wife. We've been together for a little over a year. Um, and then I have Tora. She's actually going to be 4 in July. I don't know if you can hear Declan. He's crying right now. But Declan, he is 19 months old.
Oh,
He's my son. They're both my stepkids, but I treat them as my own.
very
You know,
nice.
I treat whenever I talk to anybody, I say they're my kids no matter what. Um, and then we have a little guy on the way. His name's going
Oh,
to be Parker.
congratulations.
So forward to that.
What was his name?
Parker.
Parker. Very cool. Well, but three, you're gonna have your hands full. Those are kind of close to each other in age, and
Mm-hmm.
man, you might want to sign up for some more military duty. That
Well,
might be the only way you're gonna get some peace.
you know, yeah, that is the the funny thing is a lot of people just stay in there like it's my break from the family. It's their own little vacation when they go on deployments. Yeah, it's a sad thing to say, but
No, but
it's the legit
it's all in
truth.
fun. But it's
It's the
all in
legit
fun.
truth.
And yep, yep.
But
No, no. I trust me. You know what? I travel a lot for what I do, and you know what? That 8-hour drive that I might have to make in that windshield time, holy crap, that is nice.
right.
But and I'm sure you feel the same way about your family. I would never trade my family in or change anything about anything.
Nope.
But it is that momentary quiet
Hmm.
is super nice at times for sure. So Parker's on the way. When is Parker going to join us?
Well, he's due July 13th, but my
Oh,
wife
been
naturally
down to
gives
it.
birth at 34 weeks, so we're expecting um early June. Yeah, first or second week of June is what we're expecting.
Would this be your first
Yeah,
actual?
this will be my very first kid, so it's for her it's her
So
third one,
right
so
now,
she's a little
a month and a half, maybe 2 months out. What's your biggest worry?
mm, not doing the right thing or something, messing something up. I think that's my biggest fear. Like,
See, that's pretty close to what mine was. Oh my God, I'm going to break it. I don't want to break
I,
it.
I don't know. I don't want to drop him. I don't want to
Yeah,
drop him.
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
I came into
Yeah.
Declan's life when he was 3 months old, so I got to at least experience that part and on.
Mhm.
But I always make this joke with everybody. I didn't get to skip the process this time. So I
Yeah.
was there for the whole thing.
Well, very cool. Well, then you kind of know what to go through and all that, because yeah, I remember the first, and I never held a baby until
Right.
my friend. And so yeah, the whole oh God, I'm gonna break her. That was the whole thing. Um, so the other two girls.
And so Tora's
Oh,
the oldest girl, and then
okay,
Declan is the boy.
Declan. Okay,
He's
so
the
you have a
problem
couple of
child.
sons there. Well, the middle
Problem.
ones usually are. So you know,
Mhm.
it's either the calm between the two storms or the problem one, I guess. Usually, because
Yeah.
my middle one, yeah, she's probably the most rambunctious of the three. So I think
Yeah,
it
we're
tends to be
expecting.
that way. Yeah, yeah. Um, well, you know, we're kind of getting down to everything here, so I want to kind of go now into preview mode here. And everybody knows that we pre-tape these, and they come out on Tuesday. But tomorrow night we're gonna preview two tracks kind of here. We're gonna be in Chicagoland Monday night, the MVRL, and get your initial thoughts on that. And what are you thinking? And what do you expect?
Um, that one I'm expecting some really good racing. Like I did a test, last night with it. Um, man, you can run everywhere. It's amazing.
Nice.
Like you run the same lap times with your bumper up against the wall, and you're where you're up against the white line. Identical. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna be good racing. So I'm expecting that. I'm really hoping on some green flag racing. I don't think we're gonna get to the green flag pit stops yet with the Monday night series, but if hey, they might surprise me. Who knows? Who knows? Never know. But definitely,
I think there will. I've seen an improvement a little bit week to week, but I mean it's definitely a process. But yeah, the green flag pit stops would be a whole nother monster in that league, wouldn't it?
with some of those guys, they've never raced any races where they've actually had to watch their fuel. No, I think it'll be interesting.
Well, it's not even that, but with that tire wear in that car,
Yeah.
the undercut will come into play because I mean
Mhm.
you go in and take tires, you'll run a second faster a lap, second and a half
Mhm.
faster a lap with newer tires, and you can make a lot of ground up that way if you time it just right.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
so yeah, we're gonna be Chicagoland, but then when this airs, what we're actually gonna be looking at is Iowa. So staying in the heartland, what are your thoughts about Iowa? Because that's an interesting track.
Um,
It's a
you know,
short track that drives like a speedway.
for sure it does, for sure. I think it's gonna be interesting. I think everybody's gonna have a problem coming off turn 4, like everybody does.
Yep.
Turn 4 is always the treacherous one. Um, especially like with our trucks since we ran there a couple weeks ago. Definitely was. It's always fun with the trucks, in my opinion. So I'm hoping to have the same factor with the ARCA cars. Haven't ran into practice laps there, but planning on some slick weather for that one. So
Oh,
definitely gonna
hot, hot, hot,
make
hot, huh?
gonna make it at least the driver a little bit more than what it
Well,
is. So.
Iowa, there's a handful of tracks that are like this. Iowa, you have to drive both ends of the track completely different, and
Oh yeah.
those are always fun, but those are also difficult because then getting into a rhythm a little bit tougher to do, especially if you're in traffic. It might take you 20, 30 laps to finally settle into a rhythm and get to where you can run.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's a little track it's not a speedway, but sure drives like one.
Hmm.
So, well, we look forward to seeing those races and whatnot there. And man, I can't wait to run Chicagoland. Like I told you, it's a track that I don't get to do that often, and I wish more people used it. And I know they don't because, well, it's not currently on anybody's schedules
Hmm.
in the real world, so they bypass it, which is definitely too bad. Um, so, but the last thing we always like to do here is a little bit of a green-white checker. So it's just like 3 rapid-fire questions here, okay? And I know I asked you a little bit earlier about the trucks or the ARCA, so that was going to be my first one. But I'm going to throw a third one in there. So if you had to, iRacing said you're going to be punished, and for the next year you can only race one car. Would it be the trucks, the ARCA, or the Miata? 1 year
Mm.
punishment. You got to only run one.
Miata, honestly.
Wow. Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't expect that. Why?
Just the more variety, I guess you can say.
That's fair.
Like you can run it on short, you can run it on ovals, and still have a blast.
You can. Yeah.
So whereas the truck and the Arc, it's a little bit more challenging, I guess you could say on the roadside. So I'm like, screw it,
It's a
I'll just run
lot more
Maya.
challenging. Um, well, the next one then you talked about your favorite track, which is pretty much I've got it narrowed down to probably Myrtle Beach. So if you were going to take a weekly series there, what car do you take there to run a week to week to week race series?
Mm. Be a toss up between the late model stock and street stock.
Street
Be a toss
stocks.
up.
Wow, been a long time since I've ran a street stock there. Um, Very cool. Well, the very last one here, this one's kind of a loaded question. And if Sean's watching, you mentioned Sean Ambrose. So if he's watching, he's got
Hmm.
connections up there. So you were just made president of iRacing. What's the one thing you would add or change?
Mm. Damn, I can't even think about that one for a minute. That one's man, that's a hard one. There's so much people would probably say, but I'm trying to think.
Yep. Yep. You get the one. I mean, you'd have a to-do list, I'm sure, if you were made president of iRacing, but what would be at the top of that list? Oh, we've got would it be the class, the I rating thing? Because I know that's a lot of people's hot topic. Would you, focus more on short tracks? Would you, bring a new car to the service, a new track? Or what do you think?
I think I would clean the table with all of the classes and series and start fresh, rebuild them, every single one, rebuild how they run, what category they fall under. I think I'd just start completely fresh and change which cars are in which class. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one I've heard a lot too. And not only do that, but make the license per each car,
yeah,
because that's, 'cause I know, like, I can bump my up, my I rating up in dirt if I ran just late models all the time. But then if I went and ran, let's say
yeah,
street stocks, I'd be very, very average, but I would be in a higher server and just get my butt kicked.
hmm
Therefore, I would not want to run street stocks for that very reason. And that
yeah.
actually keeps me out of cars if I ran officials anyway. So, well, very cool. And you know what? I've enjoyed getting to know you, James. I look forward to running with you on Monday night. Hopefully, I can figure out how to drive those cars a little better, get a little more speed. I seem to be stuck about mid-pack, but I'm a dirt guy, so I'm going to fall back on that excuse. But thank you for giving us a platform, and thank you for coming on board with VGN and having that your series on VGN on Monday nights. We've enjoyed having you part of the family here, and you guys, you know, they've been entertaining at moments. So hopefully we can continue and we raise the bar together, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. And thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome, and thank you again for your service.
Thank you.
That's James Lehman, MVR owner, driver, ARCA trucks, a little bit of everything there. So we thank you for joining us this week, and we hope to see you again next week right here on VGN.
Coming up on the Virtual Grip Network, the BRL Modifieds and Late Models from Southern National Speedway will air on Saturday, May 17th at 7:40 p.m. Maximum Velocity Racing League's ARCA Series will be live from Iowa Speedway on Monday, May 19th at 9:30 p.m. And catch the next episode of VGN Weekly at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, May 20th, all times Eastern. You can see our full schedule and more at virtualgrip.net.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skinner Creek Motorsports Group.